Dear friends, we have been using the word definition very often in our academic communication. We have also been asked to define a number of terms as well as words. When we make an attempt to define a word or a term, we face the difficulty and very often we fail miserably in our attempt. And this failure is due to the simple reason that we do not know how we should define a word or a term. Let's learn what a definition is here. A definition is an equation. What's the definition? A definition is an equation. It has two parts. One is the to be defined. That is, the word or the term you would like to define is to be defined. And the definer is the definition you give for a word or a term. As I have told you just now, a definition is an equation. It means that the to be defined can be replaced by the definer without changing the sense of the definition. Okay? So let's make a very simple attempt to define the word slave, which we have been using often in our communication. You know well that in the US, African Americans were treated as slaves in the past. Now, who is a slave? Somebody defines slave as a man. But this definition is not acceptable because not every man is a slave. So what is the correct definition? What is the acceptable definition of the word slave? A slave is the legal property of another person. What is the correct definition? A slave is a human being who is the legal property of another. So in this definition, it's an equation. In this equation, you have two parts. One is the to be defined, that is slave. The other is the definer. The definer is a human being who is the legal property of another. This is an example for a perfect definition. Don't forget that a definition is an equation. Secondly, now this is only a word of caution. When you define a term, don't beat about the bush. Don't be circular. When we are circular, when we try to say something in a roundabout way, we don't actually define the term or word. So let's take this very simple example. Who is a statistician? A statistician is a person who makes a profession of compiling and studying statistics. If you analyze the 14 words used in this definition, you will understand that it's not a definition at all because the word statistician is not defined here, and this is an example for circular, meaningless definition. So what is the correct definition of statistician? A statistician is a person who collects, organizes, analyzes, interprets, and presents the data. Now, he is a statistician. Let's take a few more examples. What's a computer? A computer is a machine used for storing and processing data. Okay? What is a computer? A computer is an electronic device used for storing and processing data. This is a definition. So you will be able to define words and terms correctly, accurately, only through constant exposure to the definitions that have already been made by others, and only through the constant practice of defining words and terms which you use very often in our academic communication. I hope you have comprehended now what a definition is. A definition is an equation. It has two parts. One is to be defined and the other is the definer. What is important here? The to be defined can be replaced by the definer. Secondly, make sure that your definition is not circular, is not something like beating about the bush without exactly giving the definition of the word or term, right? This is only the word of caution. I hope you have comprehended all the details related to the job of defining a word or term. Thank you very much.